Welcome to Story Chats at Insby Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
And Amy Anguish is back with us again today to talk about her Christmas release, Mama Dated Santa. And I wrote that like Mama Kissed Santa about 6 times. I'm like, no, it's not the song. It's dated Santa. I'm going to go ahead and read your bio real quick, and then we will jump in. So Amy R. Anguish grew up as a preacher's kid, and in spite of having lived in 7 different states that are all south of the Mason-Dixon line, she's not a football fan. Currently, she resides in Tennessee with her husband, daughter, and son, and usually a bossy cat or two. Amy has an English degree from Freed-Hardeman University that she intends to use to glorify God, and she wants her stories to show that while Christians face real struggles, it can still work out for good. Thank you so much, Amy, for coming back to hang with us again.
I love hanging out with you guys.
Excellent.
So we're going to start off by having you tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay. It's set in Texas in a toy store, and it basically goes from Black Friday through Christmas. And the manager of the toy store is Nick Russo, and he does not love the holidays because all the last minute shoppers and worry about finishing the year strong has just ruined it for him. And then the heroine is Trudy McNamara, and she's not hot on the holidays either right now because her dad was a huge lover of Christmas, and she lost him on Christmas Eve 5 years before. And it's rough.
Yes. That's great.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
that's a great place to that's a good hook. I think
Okay.
everybody's probably like, I want to read it.
Right.
It's a great
Yeah.
setup.
Who doesn't want to read a Christmas book about people who don't love Christmas, right?
Well, like, I mean, I'm sorry, Scrooge is like you know universal, right? So it
Yeah.
works.
Yes.
Sad but true.
All right, Narelle, why don't you start us off?
I will start us off. So, I mean, I enjoyed the story, and toy stores and Christmas, they really are a match made in heaven, in my opinion. Like, you can't go wrong with a Christmas book that has a toy store.
Well,
No?
I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong.
Well, they can go wrong in the story, but we end up with a happily ever after at the end of the romance. So it's all good. So let's talk about Nick's family and the toys, how the toy store and what's going on with the store plays quite a important role in setting up the story at the beginning. So we won't go into spoilers, but we'll go back to the beginning of what's actually going on when the story opens.
Yeah, the store has it's hit a rough spot, and a lot of people shop online now. They want a little more from a store if they're actually gonna put on real clothes and go into it, or at least some of us put on real clothes to go into a store. I know not everybody does, but um so he's struggling a little. He was not expecting everything to have just stayed the same from when his grandfather started it years before, but it's in the family, and he's the one cousin who showed interest in taking over. So he's the manager, and his dad and 2 uncles are semi-retired, and they don't really realize how bad things have gotten. And so he has to call a meeting and say, okay, guys, we gotta do something here. And I love his Uncle Paul is the one that plays the store Santa. And so he is determined to find some Christmas magic to save their heritage.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was. And that's the where we want to say Mama kisses Santa, but we have to say Mama dated Santa.
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
most of us probably loved Uncle Paul.
Yeah, Paul was fantastic.
Yes.
He was a great figure, playing the store Santa and lurking around, noticing more than what Nick gave him credit for at times. And, yeah, he was definitely a strong secondary character, while the others slid more into the background.
Right. I think because he was in the store more, he played a bigger role
right there
because he was
could
Santa.
Just see more of what was going on.
Yes.
Excellent.
You know, rather than those guys who just came in from the golf course periodically.
Exactly.
You know, if you're going to be semi-retired, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just go play
Either
golf,
play
right?
Santa or play golf, right?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Or sometimes both, right? No.
All right, Valerie. You have a question?
I want to talk about how we don't really notice the ruts that we're sliding into at times. So I have a little quote from the story that I'm going to read. "It wasn't always like this." Nick's voice trailed off as he plucked a piece of tinsel from a branch. "My grandma used to pride herself on the decorations, but as the years went by, I guess they took a back burner to everything else, and we just pulled the same things out over and over again, not paying attention." It's easy to do that, isn't it? To see things without really seeing them. And then most of this time of year was ruined for him thanks to the business aspect. This was the busiest shopping season, and it had become all about the money. So let's talk about ruts and how, if we're not really focusing on being observant, we don't even notice. So what was your thoughts going into that?
I think I knew from the get-go that he didn't love the holidays, and I had to figure out the reason. And as I got to know him while I was writing, because that's how I write,
Yeah.
I create these characters and then I learn them as I write, and then they sort of take over. And I knew the first image in my head was that tree that was just all shambles, and it was a cacophony of a tree. The ornaments were falling apart, and half the lights weren't working, and the other half were blinking out of sync. And I thought, okay,
Ouch.
this tree is going to show that there's a bigger problem than just the Christmas decorations, and that they've just left things the same way for so long and just expected everything around them to stay the same. And that's not the way things work. Especially nowadays when everybody wants something new and different and brighter and better. And you can't even keep your cell phone for more than a year without another one coming out that, oh, well, I need that one because it has a better camera or whatever. So when you just leave everything to stay the same in a store or in any other part of your life, it's
And there's a little bit more to it, because that tree didn't stay the same. It
oh, it got worse.
backslid.
It got dropped a few times. Yeah.
And so that might be a little bit symbolic too, when we think
Mhm.
we're letting things be the same. Are they?
Yeah. There's a saying that if you're not growing, then you're dying, basically.
Right.
You're stagnating and getting worse. And so, as a person, I'm always trying to improve and get better at things and not make as many mistakes. And if I don't keep doing that, then it's gonna get
And
worse.
those lights are going to blink out of sync.
Exactly.
Yes.
That was just
My lights are not gonna be
image
in
that
sync.
just made me kind of cringe. I'm like, oh, I hate flashing lights to start with, but if they're not even in unison, I don't know when to close my eyes.
Yes.
And then it was the tree that was in the photos with Santa as well. And people
Yes.
are so fussy about their photos.
Such sadness.
Such that.
Yes.
Totally.
Poor little Charlie Brown tree. It didn't even, love wasn't even enough. Linus's blanket wasn't even enough. It was
It
sad.
needed help.
Go read the book and see how sad this poor tree was.
Because Valerie's decided the tree's a character, just
Apparently.
so we are all on
I
that.
think it was
Yes.
very symbolic.
Major
Yes.
symbolism to this story.
Yes.
So pretty much every character in this story is struggling with some sort of grief. And why did you do that? Tell us about your thought process. Like sometimes I try so hard, and I mean I liked it because everybody was struggling with the same thing in just completely different ways.
Yes.
But there was a lot of grief.
Okay, so let me tell you about the inspiration for this
Okay.
story.
Please do.
It started with the title
Mhm.
because the very first Christmas that we had moved to Tennessee, we went to breakfast with Santa, and the gentleman playing Santa was the father of one of my friends, and he heard our last name and he said, "Oh, do you know?" And he listed my in-laws' names,
Oh,
and we said, "Yes, we do know them."
funnily enough.
Yeah, exactly. And he made the connection and said, "Well, I'm so sorry because we had just lost my mother-in-law that
Okay.
September. It's been 6 years." And he sent his hellos to my father-in-law. So we were talking to my father-in-law later, and he said, "Yes, he did know us in college. In fact, he dated your mother-in-law." And I looked at my husband and I said, "Oh my goodness, your mom dated Santa," you know. And of course, he wasn't Santa back in college.
Sure.
But it inspired, I just the words "Mama dated Santa"
Yeah.
just stuck in my head, and I thought I have to write a story to go with this title. But I knew that, if I was going to have the "Mama dated Santa" storyline to go with it, that there was going to have to be something that had happened to make Mama single and wanting to get back with Santa.
Yeah.
And so,
AKA Paul.
AKA Paul. Yes.
sorry, I had to kill off the dad,
Yeah.
It's like,
Hate when that happens.
Yes, authors are so evil. We
So
kill
mean.
half our characters. Um, so that we had to have them single, and
Yeah.
if you're single, then something's happened to take away the person who gave you these children that
True.
call you mama and everything. And I did incorporate just some things that I've experienced over the years of seeing how different people deal with grief.
Mhm.
Some people, like the very first Christmas after we lost my mother-in-law, I went to set the table and I set the number of places that we had always set. And then I looked at the plates and I'm like, why is there because I had set one for her and
Yeah.
she's not here. And still to this day, I sometimes pick up my phone to text her a funny story about my kids, and I'm like, "Oh, I can't do that." And she loved Santas, like she collected
Aw.
them. So every
Aw.
time I see a Santa, I think of her still.
How
And
fun.
grief isn't something that you just get over.
No.
It just
Mm.
stays with you forever, and you just always have this little hollow spot in your heart, that oh, that's where I'm missing somebody, and you can still have a really great life and you can still move on, but you're always going to have that missing piece.
Right.
So I had to up Trudy's grief factor because it's been 5 years. She should not still be clinging to her dad for this long.
Yeah.
So I added a little guilt on top of her
Mhm.
grief and sharpened the edges a little.
As authors do.
Right.
Yeah.
Poor
That
Sarah.
doesn't look
Trudy.
nasty
Yeah.
enough. Let me give her more misery.
Twist the knife just
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yeah. No, so she's had a little bit rougher go of it than like her sister and her mom.
So
They
tell us a
moved on a
little
little more.
bit about that relationship with her dad, because I think that starts pretty early in the story, so we're not giving away
Yeah.
spoilers.
No,
We go
Right.
there.
So she and her dad started very early. I think I said when she was 8.
Yeah.
Every year at Christmas, just the two of them, they would do a Christmas bucket list of like 3 items that they wanted to do that Christmas season. And I got that idea from all those Hallmark bingo things that go around the internet every year, of how many of these are you going to do this Christmas? Drink hot chocolate or go on a sleigh ride or go see lights, or I had her go see the Rockettes, which is on my bucket list. Someday I want to go see the Rockettes. Um, and you know, there's just all these different things that you can do in the holiday season. And ended up, I think she ended up with like 10 years of them. So that's like 13, 15 different items that she did with her dad through the years. So it just made it very special. And he just made Christmas amazing for her all those years. And he just loved Christmas. And so when she lost him on Christmas Eve on the way to do a bucket list item, it was just, you know, it was too much. She didn't want to do Christmas anymore after that.
And we all
Reasonable.
pause.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Trickle down our cheeks.
Reasonable.
So while there's a lot of grief in the
Yes.
story, and there is, and sadness over that poor tree and the things that it symbolizes, it's not a depressing story.
No, it is not.
No.
It is not.
So
No, it's very
if you're
cute.
going, well, I don't really want to read a story in which everybody is grieving and the
No.
poor tree
Nobody
grouping
wants to cry
with
at Christmas.
lights off.
It is not a downer. It is it has some very amusing moments in there as
Yes.
well. And it's a very
Bicycle races in a toy store. That's all
Yeah.
I'm going to say there.
yeah.
I know. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, health and safety. Because that's like, if you've ever worked in retail, your absolute nightmare is for during the store opening hours for that particular thing to be happening. Like
Right.
that's an absolute nightmare. And I'm just sitting there watching this thinking, oh my goodness, I can hear that voice in my head wanting to yell at these people. Stop.
But he's the manager.
That's right.
The buck
I
stops with him.
know.
He gets to
I
do
know.
what he wants.
I know, but still, it's just, I worked in retail for too many years is my problem. So
I don't know. If he wants
Yeah.
to play with the toys, he should be allowed.
It's a toy
Yeah.
store.
It's a toy
get to-
store.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
have
After
to play.
hours, doesn't everything come alive?
That's
Am I
right.
mixing
Oh,
my
I know.
stories now?
And I can't say it because it's a spoiler. So, but I did. There was a
Don't.
part of me that went, "Oh my goodness, this." I thought this could genuinely end in tears. Is what I actually thought. It could end with tears and blood and all sorts of fun things going on.
Instead, all the blood was before. Oh my! It's
But
a
I
good
didn't-
story.
yeah.
It's a cheerful story. You're gonna love it. It's not full of blood and tears.
No, there's lots of paint though. I love the paint. Lots and lots of paint in this book. And
Yeah.
I really, there's a particular, I mean, one of the things I really liked was it's enemies to love. And enemies to love can be tricky to try and get that right. But the forced proximity works so well. And when they end up having to do the painting thing, that was just, it's one of those things I really like about enemies to love is you put these two people together, you make it as uncomfortable and awful as possible. And then you see if they sink or swim. And that
In
was really
romance.
Yeah,
Yes.
They might
yes.
sink before they swim, but they will swim.
they will swim.
Yes.
Thank you. Swim
Yes.
eventually.
Sorry, Amy, we're busy just talking about your book.
That's
Is it
fine.
okay?
Yes.
I love it.
All right. Well, we all enjoyed reading it. Is there anything about the book that we did not touch on that you would like to make sure that readers know?
I'm amazed that you guys didn't bring up her nephew.
Okay.
I love writing her nephew, Mark.
Yes, he was a sweetie.
Yeah.
And wasn't he 5?
It's like 4 or 5, yes.
Yeah.
He was 4,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Almost the perfect age, but not
Almost
quite
the
for
perfect
Valerie.
age.
Yeah, he's, you know, he's a
No,
little,
he was awfully cute.
yeah. I love the scene where they're making cookies with him.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes in the whole book.
That is a great, that
And
is
she
the-
does go
yeah.
out of her way to
she's a good aunt.
make
Yes.
sure that her
Yeah.
nephew isn't suffering from a lack of good Christmas. No,
Her sister's a bit of a
I've forgotten the heroine's name. I'm
person.
sorry.
The heroine
her-
is Trudy.
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 Yeah.
I knew
Mhm.
that. I just
Yeah.
was like blank.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was a good auntie.
She is.
And
Yes.
kudos to her
Yes.
to set aside her own issues to make sure that the little guy had good memories of his own to look forward to every year.
Yep.
Yes.
For sure. Yep. Awesome. So what's next for you, Amy?
Next is I have another book releasing in March.
Okay.
And it's actually going to be a married romance.
Ooh.
Where the marriage is falling apart at the beginning.
Okay.
And they both work at the same school. He's the principal and she's the school nurse. Okay. So you
so
got
why you should never date someone you work with or marry them.
Forced proximity going on here again. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm sort of excited right now because I'm about to participate in NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. I haven't done that in a few years. And I'm going to be writing a modern day Cinderella.
Oh, fun.
And I haven't done any fairy tale retellings yet. So I'm getting excited about it.
To release that one later next year then?
Probably not next year. I discovered this year that 4 releases in a year for me right now in this time of life with 2 small children and 3 other jobs is too much.
Oh, why?
And I had a little bit of stress this year, so I'm gonna slow it down a little over the next few years. But I'm gonna try and do 2 to 3 releases a year still. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I'm planning to do NaNoWriMo this year too, and I do it probably every, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. Doesn't usually line up with me wanting to start a new book, so I can't wait for it.
It's a busy time of year.
Can't lose a few weeks and just go, oh well, I don't need to write right now because I'm going to write like the week of November.
Yeah. I'm trying to get everything done in October so that I have a couple weeks, because I can usually do it in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
When I do NaNoWriMo.
Okay.
So if I just cram it all in there and have everything outlined and ready to go, just slam it down and then,
Outlining is wonderful.
Well, I don't do a thorough outline. I do I should have this scene. Oh, that would be a cute scene. And then I sort of like rearrange them and I have like details about my characters or settings, and that's my version of an outline. It's not very detailed at all.
Not a deep, in-depth one.
No.
Well, I hope that we get to hear more about both of those stories.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Super fun. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're actually like right on time. We're doing great. So this is exciting. Remind everyone where your website is.
My website is called abitofanguish.weebly.com. I do have a blog on there and all my book updates.
And that's where they can find your socials, right?
Yes, I definitely have links to my socials on there too.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It was fun.
Today, it's not really tonight.
Yes.
But whatever. Technically, I think I post these at 4 a.m. So,
I've heard of 4 a.m., but
super early in the morning when you're listening. If you
well, they post in the evening in Australia, so there you go. You can say whatever time of day you want, and it works for someone.
That's right. That's right.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Two places.
And thank everyone out there for joining us as well. I hope that you will look up Mama Dated Santa by Amy R. Anguish, because it is a delightful Christmas read, and add it to your Christmas reading for the season. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. And if you are over on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And you can find information about the podcast at inspiromance.com/storychats. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. But in the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.